It's no surprise that time will play a key role in the story of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, with the past and future being heavily implied as the themes for both the new professors and the legendary Pokémon Koraidon and Miraidon, with some people going as far as speculating that the two legendaries might actually be past and future forms of the same Pokémon. What is up everyone, it's the Munch and welcome to another Pokémon Scarlet and Violet speculation video. Today we're going to be taking a deeper dive into the possibility of past and future forms in the new region. Now I will be going into some potential leaks for the game, so if you don't want to get spoiled at all in terms of what could be coming up, probably a good time to click off the video. Otherwise, if you're excited, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already for more Scarlet and Violet discussion, theories, leaks, and all that other good stuff. Now it's finally time I talk about the legendary Mr. Kakao. If you don't know, this guy has been leaking pretty much everything that we know so far about Scarlet and Violet, or I guess technically leaked it a while back as his Twitter account has now been deleted, but he is apparently a quality assurance tester on Scarlet and Violet, meaning he is hands-on working with the game directly, and hosted a Q&A on Twitter where he answered a bunch of questions about the games, giving us a bit more info about what to expect. Here I've got a post by Pokemon Leaks compiling all of Kakao's leaks. As you can see, it is quite a lot of information, so if you want to pause the video and take a look and read it all in detail, you can go ahead and do that, because I'm going to be focusing mainly on the new Pokemon, as of course this video's title is Past and Future Forms, which Mr. Kakao somewhat confirms here under the new Pokemon forms and evolution sections. You can see we've got Wooper with a new regular and regional form, Hypno with a new form, Murkrow with an evolution, Dunsparce finally with an evolution, and Jigglypuff with an ancient form, but no future form. Also, a Moongus apparently has an ancient form. And those last two I mentioned specifically actually have some visual evidence here. Now, I'm not sure where these were posted originally, so of course they could end up being totally fake, but here we've got what appears to be a Jigglypuff with a thirst for blood and very yellow eyes. There's definitely a vampire movie where they have yellow eyes, right? And of course an ancient form for my favorite Pokemon, the most sussy of them all, a Moongus, who's now got some emo green hair draped over its eyes. To be honest, this kind of looks like a fake to me, but then again, a lot of the regional forms we ended up getting in Sword and Shield also kind of looked like fakes when they first came out, so we could very well be looking at our first conformed past/future form here. I guess technically both of these are ancient forms of a Moongus and Jigglypuff. Now I've actually gone ahead and tried to recreate them using the original Sugimori art, so we can see them in a little bit more detail potentially. I know it doesn't match up exactly one-to-one. This new Moongus seems to be more squished down than the version that I came up with, but just to get an idea, we can see there are now some spikes on Moongus's mushroom helmet, and of course the green grassy like moss coming off from the top, which begs the question of what typing this new form could be. If it is like a regional variant, then of course it wouldn't just be grass and poison as the regular Moongus is. With Jigglypuff here, it's a little bit harder to say because a vampire would imply that it might be half a dark type, and the little wings I added there in the back aren't actually confirmed because the picture of course only shows its face, but you can kind of see something black behind it, so I thought adding little vampire wings was really cute. Something that might add a little bit of clarity to this confusion comes from the most infamous leaker of the Gen 9 hype season. And that is of course Riddler Ku himself, who on Twitter got asked the question, can you tell us anything more about that ancient Jigglypuff? Type or new ability? To which Ku replies, you could refer to UB, meaning Ultra Beast. Some of the new concept mons share a mutual ability. And if you don't know Ku at this point, like I said, he is the most famous or infamous leaker for Gen 9, and even back in Sword and Shield, he gets his information from the Chinese version of Twitter, I believe, where the original Riddler posts his riddles in Chinese, of course, and that original Chinese Riddler has been accurate with his leaks since back in Gen 7, Sun and Moon, so I would say he's pretty trustworthy at this point. Riddler Kudo, of course, translates it from Chinese into his own version of cryptic English that is sometimes kind of difficult to understand. Thankfully, this one here is pretty straightforward. He's basically saying that like the Ultra Beast, these past and future forms of Pokemon will all share a similar ability, like Beast Boost, which of course is the signature ability of all the Ultra Beasts. And while Ku's not saying that is exactly the ability that these new forms will have, it seems that they will all share one common ability between all of them, so they could very well still have the same typing as their original counterparts, but this is what sets them apart, is that new ability. Now this could also have to do with the fact that regional variants seem to be separate to these new past and future forms, as we have another prominent Pokemon leaker here. Central Leaks on Twitter is usually the one that I see the most. I was actually trying to avoid leaks for Sword and Shield. Unfortunately, this account was just everywhere at the time, so for Gen 9, I've decided to ride the hype of the leaks at least until the very end when the actual game gets leaked and then you can see all of the new Pokemon. That I'm going to try to avoid until I actually see them in the game. But talking about what could potentially be in there, now that's very exciting. So here we've got a list of every regional form and Pokemon getting evolutions and ancient species and convergent species. What the frick does all of this mean? Well, let's go through them one at a time, starting with regional forms, which are the ones that we know and love already, like Alolan forms and Galarian forms, which it seems we're going to get one for Wooper and Tauros, which is kind of interesting because we actually had some fake leaks for Tauros regional form come out, and Wooper as well that I discussed in the last Scarlet and Violet video. And it seems that they actually are gonna be in the games, but obviously they're not gonna end up looking like these because they've been confirmed fake. So these fake artists, man, they're getting really lucky with their predictions, or they actually had some inside source. But yeah, that's the regional forms as we know and love them. The second column we've got here are for new evolutions, which is kind of like Basculegion and Wordier, which we saw in Pokemon Legends Arceus, and even back in Sword and Shield, of course, we had Berserker and Obstagoon as an exclusive evolution to Galarian Zigzagoon. Now, we've actually seen the new evolution for Girafarig already in the previous video, which I thought was actually a regional form, but is apparently now being confirmed as an evolution instead. So just like Wordier evolves from regular Stantler, it looks like this new evolution of Girafarig will come from the regular version as well. Which means that the Dunsparce we all know and love is finally getting a proper evolution, and there's so much dang fan art of this that you just know it's gonna end up totally different and probably be a disappointment in the end. As the compilation of Kakao said earlier, Dunsparce's evolution does not fly, which means it's most likely not a dragon unless it's like a ground dragon with no wings. Most likely it's just not gonna be a dragon though, but I just hope it looks cool because fans have wanted a Dunsparce evolution forever basically, so please don't disappoint. Next we have the ancient species, which include Jigglypuff and Moongus we took a look at earlier, and I think this column might also include future forms, but Central Leaks doesn't really specify. Instead, we have one final column known as convergent species, aka R-Fakes. And this is a term you've probably heard of a lot if you've been following Ku's riddles. The term R-Fakes basically means regional fakes or regional variants that aren't actually regional variants, but rather an entirely new Pokemon that looks like an old species. I know that seems a little bit complicated, so the easiest way that I can explain it is Gen 5 Pokemon Black and White introduced a lot of new Pokemon that sort of looked like they could be regional variants of past Pokemon like Bouffalant and Tauros, even Woobat and Swoobat, Dwebble looking like a rock-type version of Parasect. There were a lot of examples of this in Gen 5. If you really take a look at that dex, it kind of looked like they were trying to revamp Gen 1, but like in America. So it looks like these type of Pokemon will return in Scarlet and Violet, being entirely new Pokemon with a new dex number, but they're gonna bear some similarity to older Pokemon, almost looking like they could be regional variants, hence the term regional fakes. And there's actually a tweet here from Mr. Ku that explains it a little bit better. As you can see, we've got Alolan Vulpix, which is the same Pokedex number as regular Vulpix, versus this weird pink Magnemite, which I don't know if that means that there will actually be a new Magnemite in the game. I think he's just using it as an example to say that there's going to be a Pokemon that looks similar to Magnemite, but it's actually an entirely different Pokemon with a new name and a new Pokedex number. Speaking of this new Magnemite though, there was a leak of what are supposed to be the gym leaders, and this girl does have an oddly colored Magnemite on her head, but I don't think those are actually Magnemite. They look like they're just plushies, so I'm not really sure what to think, considering the Magnemite that's the regular coloring doesn't actually have its magnets attached to it either. So I feel like this isn't actually confirming a new form for Magnemite or even a new R-Fake, and the previous tweet that we saw from Ku is just an example of what R-Fakes mean. So with all that in mind, let's do a quick recap. We've got new regional forms for Wooper and Tauros, new evolutions for all the Pokemon you see there, the past and future forms for Jigglypuff and Moongus, and finally an entirely new Pokemon that is not actually Diglett, but maybe looks a little bit like it, so imagine something coming out of the ground, but it's a water type instead. Which definitely reminds me of a regional form fan art that we covered in the last video. Probably one of the most famous leaks that we've gotten in Scarlet and Violet, we've got this concept art for a water and ground type regional form of Diglett, which is kind of suspicious because as we saw earlier, the new Diglett is actually going to be a whole new Pokemon, not Diglett itself as we see here. In fact, we've got a whole slew of information here confirming not only that a new Pokemon looking similar to Dugtrio is coming, but also the regional form of Tauros and Pawmi's evolution being electric and biting type. And if you guys remember, I actually showed off a potential Pawmi evolution in the last video, which seems to now be confirmed as we have the full artwork for it, totally uncensored and unfiltered. There is Pawmi's new evolution, which I guess is going to be the first ever electric and fighting type. Sorry, Zeraora, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Now, even cooler than this totally new type combination, this evolution has actually got a whole new ability which can revive a fallen Pokemon. And it totally leans into my theory when the first trailer revealing Pawmi came out that it uses its little paws as defibrillators, which if you don't know are those things you rub together and then press on a person's chest to like resuscitate them. So that is totally what the concept for this new little Pika clone is. And it sounds like a pretty OP ability, I'm not gonna lie. Especially for competitive battling, you can just revive one of your Pokemon now. Like, I don't see why you would not ever have this Pokemon on your team, especially in double battles format. But we're getting a little bit sidetracked, so going back to the whole past and future forms, we now know that the new Diglett / Dugtrio we're potentially getting is a whole new Pokemon, not a past and future form, and the only ones we've really got confirmed so far seem to be Jigglypuff and Moongus, which are both supposed to be ancient forms. So kind of makes me wonder what the heck was going on with these Pokemon back in the day if their past forms are just being covered in moss and having vampire fangs from Party City. And now we finally get to the most recent post on r/PokeLeaks over on Reddit. We've got an updated chart with new Pokemon that have been revealed recently. Now, I'm not sure where the original sources for all of these are, but I've definitely heard of some on this list, like the new Flamingo Pokemon alongside a Dolphin Pokemon, which doesn't seem to be listed here, so I'm not sure about the credibility of this post exactly, which is why I'm putting it later in the video. So everything from here on out, definitely take with a massive chunk of Morton salt. You know what? Just have the whole thing because none of this could be real, but it's still fun to take a look at because we've got some more ancient forms for Misdreavus and Volcarona. Oh, I actually do remember seeing a tweet about the Volcarona. From our favorite source, Central Leaks, we've got Volcarona with an ancient species and Gallade with a future species. So again, these might not end up being true, but that would be freaking sick. I love Gallade and a future form for it sounds so cool. I can kind of imagine Gallade with lightsaber blades if it's like a futuristic form, but then again, that might not be exactly what futuristic Pokemon look like. Now this is more along the lines of Pokemon Fusion, literally being a fusion of B-Sharp and Gallade, but it looks freaking sick and I could totally imagine a futuristic form of Gallade looking something like this. I don't know why this B-Sharp X Gallade fusion seems to be a very popular concept, but it looks awesome, and this almost has that lightsaber effect that I was talking about earlier, so who knows what the futuristic Gallade will look like, but I do remember a leak that showed off a torso that sort of looks like Gallade now that I think about it, so I'll show those side by side. Even though right now people are speculating this to be Quaxly's final evolution. Apparently there will also be a futuristic form of Delibird, which could definitely use some love. Delibird is like one of the weirdest odd one out Pokemon out there, but I really wonder what a new form for it could look like, because it's kind of based on like Santa Claus, I think. So maybe in the future kids don't believe in Santa Claus anymore and Delibird becomes Krampus instead. There are definitely some awesome fan art designs for a Krampus Pokemon out there, even this one holding the bag like Delibird does, so I would love if this became the new Delibird form. JK on Twitter even came up with a Krampus Delibird, so it seems like I'm not the only one thinking this might be a thing. Maybe Game Freak is thinking the same thing. Now finally, we've got an unknown column where we have a future or ancient based Larvitar and Bagon and a new Cacnea or Maractus form, which probably just means that someone saw some kind of cactus Pokemon image and thought it's probably related to those other cactus, but it could end up just being a new Pokemon entirely. A future Larvitar definitely reminds me of Pokemon Xenoverse, where they literally have a robotic Tyranitar. That would be sick if they end up taking inspo from that, because I believe it was actually a bug type or bug and steel form that looked really cool. And then Bagon or Salamence, I mean, already we have the Croissant Mega Evolution, so I'm not really sure what more you could do with that. But with potentially two pseudo-legendaries here on the list, Larvitar and Bagon, I gotta ask, where's the love for my boy Dragonite? I remember back in Sword and Shield, there was speculation that there would be a regional form for Dragonite that might be like an ice type, or maybe it was in Legends Arceus. I mean, people have wanted something new for Dragonite for a while. It's the original pseudo-legendary dragon and hasn't gotten any love since Gen 1. I mean, it never got a G-Max or a Mega Evolution. It's about time we get a new form for Dragonite. And I think I would rather it be an ancient form rather than future. Maybe it's like the true primordial dragon or something. That sounds believable. I don't know. Now, as I was editing this video, Central Leagues came out with their own official updated chart where we can see the regional forms and evolutions I've already discussed, but also a couple of new ones, like a new evolution of Primeape, which sounds super sick, and B-Sharp, who I already mentioned earlier as like a fusion with Gallade. So it's interesting, B-Sharp's getting a new evolution, but then Gallade is still in the future species. But you might notice Volcarona is actually under both ancient and future species, so it seems that our favorite Mothra-inspired kaiju is getting both a future and an ancient form, which makes it the only Pokemon on the list so far that has both. The ones marked in red haven't been explicitly confirmed yet, but have been strongly hinted at by leakers. So I guess the Salamence and Tyranitar I was just dreaming about aren't actually confirmed yet, but apparently the rest of them are? I mean, I still feel like none of this is 100% confirmed, but they do have a pretty good track record, so... Central Leagues also came out with some clarification on the past and future forms and the convergent species. So let's start with the ancient forms here, which are apparently standalone Pokemon that don't evolve and have high stats, which sounds a whole lot like Ultra Beast, which we already had a comparison to earlier. They're classified as brand new Pokemon with their own name and Pokedex number, meaning this isn't actually a Moongus at all, and that's not Jigglypuff? Similarly, we've got convergent species, which are completely unrelated to their original counterpart, but look pretty much the same, almost like a recolor, which has me thinking about the Magnemite picture we saw earlier from Kudo, and how that might actually be a new Magnemite form that's literally just a pink version, but isn't even called Magnemite. Seems a little bit strange to me, almost lazy, but hey, we haven't actually seen them in action yet, so maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe this is all made up. I mean, they have a pretty good track record, but at the end of the day, they are still leaks and not 100% confirmed, so guess we'll have to wait and find out.